On a cold winter night in Bismarck, North Dakota, a shocking crime unfolded. Chad Ensel, a loving father and avid bowler, was found dead in his own home under mysterious circumstances. Initially, it looked like a sad accident, or maybe a very sad case of someone taking their own life. But as detectives kept looking, they found out there were a lot of lies, betrayal, and greed behind the murder that would rock the small community to its core. Join us as we reveal the chilling details of this horrifying murder case. Chad Ensel was born on March 31, 1977 to his mother, Deborah "Deb" Isaac, and his father, Ernest "Ernie" Ensel. He grew up with his sister, Lori, near Halliday, a very small town in the western part of North Dakota. Chad had a typical high school experience, being athletic and involved in track for several years. Chad graduated from the Halliday public school systems around 1995 and journeyed 5 hours across North Dakota to go to college in Wahpeton. He studied drafting, aiming for a job making and designing products. When he was 19, he went back to western North Dakota to work in Dickinson. There, he used his new drafting skills at Steph's Church Furniture Manufacturing. Chad and Susan met while both working at Dickinson. They married in 1996 in Bismarck, Susan's hometown, and later moved there. Bismarck became Chad's home for over 20 years, offering ample outdoor activities he enjoyed. However, their relationship soured over time, with Susan feeling neglected due to Chad's focus on expensive hobbies. Eventually, they divorced. Chad was known for his lively personality and numerous interests, including dart shooting, golf, bowling, and race car driving. He excelled, particularly in Thunder 4's races, winning 2 consecutive nights in 2011 at Bismarck's Dakota Speedway. Chad's love for racing at Dakota Speedway brought him together with Nikki Sue Hines, a fellow racing enthusiast. Nikki, from Aberdeen, South Dakota, had 2 sons from a previous marriage. Despite living 3 hours apart, they fell deeply in love. After overcoming distance challenges, Nikki and Chad eventually settled together in Bismarck. They got married on May 21, 2016, after Chad proposed at a friend's wedding. Chad embraced his role as a stepfather, coaching the boys' Little League team and being a positive influence. Their relationship seemed strong, with Chad being described as patient and supportive. In November 2019, Nikki and Chad's family settled into a spacious new house in the countryside near Bismarck. Nikki worked at Community Options, aiding those who needed support living independently, and ran a baking business called Savory Sweets from their home. From the outside, it appeared the Ensel family was doing well. Chad had a lot of hobbies, one of which was bowling with his friends at the local bowling alley. He was really good at it, and the newspaper often said he was one of the best bowlers in town. Sometimes he even gets a perfect score of 300. Chad practiced bowling a lot, going to the alley 2 times every week on Mondays and Thursdays. One Monday evening, Chad went bowling just like he always did. His friend at the bowling alley said he seemed happy that night. Another friend couldn't make it to bowling, so he texted Chad later to ask how it went. But Chad didn't reply. The next day, Chad's wife, Nikki, called his job to say he was sick and couldn't come in. On January 1st, everyone was celebrating New Year's Day, so they didn't think too much about where Chad was. But on January 2nd, when Chad didn't show up for work again, his coworkers got worried. It wasn't like Chad to miss work without saying anything. They called Nikki, but she said she was busy and couldn't check on him right away. Worried, they decided to go to Chad's house to see if he was okay. When they got there, they saw Chad's truck in the driveway with a frozen water bottle inside, showing it hadn't been used recently. They knocked on the door, but nobody answered. Nikki's sons were away on winter break, so they couldn't open the door either. Not knowing what else to do, Chad's coworkers called the police to ask them to check on Chad. But but nothing unusual was found outside or inside the house, so they didn't enter forcibly. Just after 5 p.m., Nikki got home to find out where Chad was. When she tried to go inside, she couldn't because of the smoke and had to call 911 at 5:20 p.m. Firefighters, police, and EMTs arrived at their house soon after. The firefighters went inside to find the fire source and put it out. It was smoky, but not enough to make Nikki leave. While searching, they found Chad's body in a back bedroom, not visible from the front of the house. He was on the bed, without clothes, and next to a shotgun. There were alcohol bottles scattered around the room. At first, it seemed Chad had shot himself in the face. A fire had started in the same bedroom, possibly from a propane heater. Further inside, they discovered another fire in the basement, involving the furnace, which had been problematic for the family. When the police asked Nikki what happened, she told them why she hadn't been home lately. First, she said the furnace wasn't working properly and it was too cold for her to stay there comfortably. It got so bad that she started feeling sick from the cold. Then she mentioned another reason for not being home. She said Chad was abusive when he drank alcohol, and she had pictures on her phone to show it. Nikki's kids were with their grandparents during New Year's, which gave her time to figure out how to leave Chad and go to Texas. At first, it looked like Chad might have used the shotgun beside him to end his own life, but that didn't make sense because there was a gunshot wound in his back when they checked. Chad couldn't have shot himself in the back with a shotgun. Also, they found a package in the bedroom addressed to someone named Earl Howard, who didn't live with Chad and Nikki. 2 days after Chad died, Nikki called his job to ask about any life insurance he might have had. The company had a simple life insurance plan for his workers. For Chad, if something happened to him, the insurance could pay between $113,000 and $120,000. Nikki also tried to get renter's insurance, which could pay up to $31,000, even though they got the policy just before Chad died in the fire. Nikki moved in with another guy named Earl Howard shortly after Chad's death. The investigators found this interesting, so they wanted to learn more about their relationship. Earl was from Canada and grew up in Bellwood, Ontario. In January 2020, Chad and Nikki had been having a secret relationship for about a year. When investigators checked where Nikki stayed at the hotel, they found out she was telling the truth about being there, but she didn't say she was in a room booked under Earl's name. They first questioned Nikki on January 7, 2020. During the interview, Nikki spoke softly and sometimes sounded like a child. When asked tough questions, she would start crying. But then, just a minute later, she would change her demeanor completely. When a BCI agent kept asking Nikki about what happened that night, she finally shared her side of the story. She said she stayed at the hotel with Earl and they went to her house together so she could get some of her properties. Nikki's story kept changing, but it seems like she and Earl went to her house 2 main times. The first time was at 1:10 a.m. and she stayed there for an hour and 40 minutes. The second time was at 6:32 a.m. and she was only there for 5 minutes. Nikki thought she had used her phone app to turn off the security cameras, but it didn't actually work. The investigators questioned her about her actions when she and Earl arrived at her house around 1:10 a.m. They discussed the malfunction of the camera system, which continued recording despite attempts to log off. She mentioned going to her room to retrieve her medication, specifically a patch. However, it was noted that she had previously told another investigator that her medication was always in her purse. She claimed she left her medication at home and needed to retrieve it. However, when questioned about why it took so long, an hour and 40 minutes, she initially denied being there for that long, then said she spent that time searching for the medication. When asked why she returned to the house at 6:32, she again said it was to get her medication, which she found in the bathroom within 5 minutes, despite not searching there during her earlier visit. In the interview, Nikki mentioned that when she and Earl first got to the house, Chad was drunk, and only the 3 of them were there. She said she was searching for her medication and also loaded the dishwasher while Earl and Chad chatted. Of course, this story would later be different. The investigators questioned her about why she attempted to disable the cameras at her house. The investigator continued by asking why she tried to change the camera settings before going to get her medication. She mentioned she logged in at 12:43 a.m., but failed to put the camera in privacy mode. He questioned her motives, suggesting anyone could access the cameras. She defended herself, saying she didn't intentionally mess with the system and that her geofence often acted up. She explained that attempting to update her geofence settings caused the camera mode to change. The investigator found her lengthy response evasive, avoiding the question. The detective asked Nikki why she logged into the security camera app at a specific time and tried to put it in privacy mode, which would turn off the cameras. She said she needed to update the geofence because it beeps when she goes out. But her explanation didn't relate to the detective's question. She kept denying, and she tried to turn off the cameras. After more questioning, Nikki changed her story and said Earl went into the house alone to get her stuff. She waited outside and heard gunshots. She kept telling the investigators she didn't know what happened inside the house, but they found it hard to believe she and Earl never talked about it afterward. Eventually, she wrote down that version of events and gave it to the officers before trying to tear it up. But before that, she told more lies to try to get out of trouble. Then, Nikki changed her story again and said someone else was at the house that night. After 3 hours of questioning, suddenly there was another person involved. For the past 3 hours, she hadn't mentioned this person for some unknown reason. She even told the investigators how tall the person was. She said she heard Chad say, "Hun, stop." When they asked what she meant by hun, she said it was a loving term, like short for honey. Then she said the other person at the house was Chad's boyfriend. Nikki accused her husband of cheating and mentioned he had big gambling debts. The interrogator didn't trust Nikki's story. She kept saying different things, maybe hoping she would say the right thing to make them stop suspecting her. Eventually, she told the investigators the idea that you could shoot someone in the back with a shotgun and the authorities won't do an autopsy to find it. The idea that you could shoot someone in the back with a shotgun and the authorities won't do an autopsy to find out is crazy. They didn't even need the autopsy. The fire didn't destroy Chad's body completely, revealing he had been shot in the back. The investigators questioned Nikki about who planned the shooting, suggesting Earl's involvement. Nikki denied planning the fire, but implicated Earl in the act. She showed concern for her own fate as the interview concluded. Despite her self-interest, investigators gathered evidence confirming Chad had been out bowling on December 30th while Nikki and Earl loaded items into Earl's truck at Chad's home. They returned to the hotel before Chad arrived home, and the front door was registered as opening around 1 a.m. Almost 2 hours after the last access, believed to be Nikki and Earl leaving the scene, an arrest warrant was issued for Earl Howard. He was arrested in Port Huron, Michigan, near the Canadian border. It was revealed that Nikki and Earl planned to move to Texas with Chad's insurance money. Earl blamed Nikki for shooting Chad but admitted to helping set the fires. They hoped removing one shotgun shell would suggest self-infliction. They staged the scene to make it look like Chad was an alcoholic and attempted to start fires in the bedroom and basement. When the house didn't burn, Nikki alerted authorities to a small fire. Both were charged with conspiracy to commit murder, arson, and evidence tampering. Earl pleaded guilty and received a 25-year sentence with parole possible after serving a minimum of 80%. Nikki went to trial in 2022. Over 40 witnesses testified, but the defense didn't bring any. In October, the jury convicted Nikki of all charges. She was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in February 2023. While justice has been served, the scars left by this horrific crime will forever remain. A testament to the fragility of life, the importance of upholding the values that make us human. Let us vow to learn from this tragedy and strive to create a world where love triumphs over hatred and compassion reveals over cruelty. If you found this video interesting, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on our latest true crime content. Your support helps us continue to uncover these important stories. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and remember to stay safe and take care of yourself and your loved ones. See you next time.